The night was cold, the wind howled through the narrow streets, and Leo sat on the edge of his bed staring at the flickering bulb above his head. The light was weak, just like the hope that had been fading inside him for months. He was a young boy, barely 23, full of dreams that didn't match the life he was forced to live. Every morning he woke up to his father's harsh voice echoing through the small, cracked house. "You call this a job? Running around like a fool for a few coins?" His father's words hit harder than any slap. Leo didn't have a proper job, as his father called it. He worked wherever he could, sometimes at the mechanic shop, sometimes delivering packages, and sometimes cleaning cars outside the local cafe. It wasn't glamorous, but it was honest work. He wasn't lazy. He was just born into a home where understanding was rare and expectations were heavy. His mother had passed away when he was 16. Since then, his father had grown colder and more bitter. The house that once echoed with laughter now only carried the sounds of arguments and silence. Leo tried to make peace. He cooked, he cleaned, he worked hard to bring home a few notes of cash. But every effort he made was dismissed. One evening, after another exhausting day of odd jobs, Leo returned home with a loaf of bread and a few vegetables. His father sat in the chair near the door, his eyes sharp and filled with disdain. "You think this is enough to feed a family?" he shouted. Leo tried to explain. "I'm trying, Father. I'm doing my best. Your best." His father slammed his hand on the table. "Your best is nothing. You've brought shame to this house. You're a grown man with no real job, no respect, and no future." Leo's heart sank. He wanted to scream, to cry, to say that he was trying his best, that the world outside wasn't easy. But his words always seemed to fall flat in front of his father's pride. That night, the argument grew worse than ever before. His father, in a fit of anger, threw Leo's few belongings out of the house. The sound of a suitcase hitting the ground echoed in the dark street. "Get out," his father yelled. "If you can't be the son I wanted, then don't live under my roof." Leo stood there in silence, his eyes filling with tears that refused to fall. The house that held his childhood memories now rejected him like a stranger. He picked up his torn bag, slung it over his shoulder, and walked away without a word. The streetlights flickered as he passed, his shadow stretching long and lonely across the road. For the first time in his life, Leo had nowhere to go. The night swallowed him whole. Leo spent his first night on the streets, sitting under a bridge near the edge of the city. The cold wind bit at his skin, and his stomach growled with hunger. He had just a few coins in his pocket, not enough for food, not enough for a roof, as dawn broke. He looked at the city waking up, cars honking, people rushing, the smell of bread from a nearby bakery filling the air. He stood up, dusted off his clothes, and told himself quietly, "I'll start again, no matter how hard it gets." He began walking door to door, looking for any work he could find. At the first workshop he visited, the owner barely looked at him. "We don't need anyone," the man said, waving his hand dismally. At another place, a small construction site, the foreman looked him up and down and said, "You don't look strong enough for this kind of job. Go find something easier." Leo forced a smile, though inside he was breaking apart. Rejection followed him like a shadow. Every no felt like a reminder that he was alone now, with no home, no family, and no one to rely on. By afternoon, he was exhausted. The sun burned hot above him, and sweat rolled down his face. He stopped by a cafe and stood outside for a while, watching people sipping coffee and chatting. That's when an old man in an apron stepped out. "You look lost, boy," the man said. Leo hesitated. "I'm just looking for work, sir. Anything at all." The man studied him for a moment, then sighed. "I could use someone to help with cleaning tables and carrying boxes. Pays not much." Leo's heart leaped. "I'll do it. I can start now." Just like that, Leo's new life began. The cafe wasn't fancy, small wooden tables, walls painted with faded colors, and the smell of roasted coffee beans hanging in the air. But to Leo, it felt like a blessing. He worked tirelessly. From dawn until closing time, he scrubbed floors, served coffee, and carried crates of supplies. His hands were blistered, his back ached, but his spirit was stronger than ever. He didn't complain once. The cafe owner, Mr. Harris, noticed his dedication. "You've got heart, kid," he said one evening. "That's something people with money don't always have." Leo smiled faintly. "Thank you, sir. I just need a chance to prove myself." Weeks turned into months. Leo saved every bit of money he could, sleeping in a small room behind the cafe that Mr. Harris offered him. Life was still tough, but for the first time in years, felt a glimmer of peace. However, fate wasn't done testing him yet. One day, while Leo was cleaning tables, two customers laughed loudly from the corner. One of them sneered, "Hey, isn't that the boy who got kicked out by his own father?" Leo froze. The words cut deeper than any wound. He turned slowly, recognizing one of them, an old neighbor from his street. Shame flushed through him. He wanted to defend himself, to explain that life had forced him onto this path, but he stayed quiet. He didn't want to cause trouble for Mr. Harris. Later that night, as he sat in his small room, Leo stared at the little savings he had managed to gather, a few notes wrapped in an old handkerchief. He clenched his fists. One day he whispered, "I'll show them all. I'll become someone they can't look down on." He didn't realize it then. But that night was the beginning of his transformation. From a broken boy into a man who would rise beyond everyone's expectations. Months passed, and Leo's routine became his world. Each morning he woke before dawn, washed his face in cold water, and prepared the cafe for customers. The coffee machines hissed to life, and the smell of fresh beans filled the air. It was tiring, repetitive work, but Leo poured his soul into every task. The regulars began to notice. "That boy works like he owns the place." One woman remarked. Mr. Harris smiled. "He might one day," he said quietly. Leo overheard that once, and the words stuck in his heart. He might one day. He started learning how to brew coffee properly, not just serving or cleaning, but mastering the art itself. Mr. Harris taught him everything he knew: how to balance flavor, how to talk to customers, and how to run a business with heart. "You've got potential," Leo Harris told him one evening. "All you need is a dream big enough to chase." Leo looked up from the counter, wiping his hands on his apron. "I've got one, sir. I want to open my own cafe someday, a place where people feel like they belong. No judgment, no insults." Harris smiled proudly. "That's a good dream. Don't let anyone steal it from you." For the first time since being thrown out of his father's home, Leo felt purpose. He worked double shifts, took extra orders, and began saving more seriously. His small box of savings grew heavier week by week. But while Leo built his future brick by brick, life at his old home was falling apart. His father's business had collapsed. The same relatives who once sided with him were now turning their backs. And the words his father once shouted, "You'll never survive without me," echoed back like a cruel curse. One cold evening, as Leo was closing the cafe, he heard a weak voice behind him. "Leo." He turned and froze. It was his father. His clothes were wrinkled, his face pale and tired. And beside him stood the stepmother who had poisoned everything between them. Leo's breath caught in his throat. "What are you doing here?" His father lowered his gaze. We lost everything, son. The house is gone. The money's gone. I didn't know where else to go." For a moment, Leo couldn't speak. His mind flashed back to the night he was thrown out, the shouting, the slamming door, the tears that followed. And now, here they were, the people who had left him in the dark, standing helpless before him. Mr. Harris, watching from behind the counter, quietly stepped away, giving Leo space. "I slept on the streets, Leo said finally. "Because of you. I begged for work. I starved. And you didn't even ask if I was alive." His father's voice trembled. "I made mistakes. I was angry. I thought I was doing what's right. Throwing your son away isn't what's right," Leo said, his voice hard but calm. His stepmother spoke up then, her tone bitter. "We came here for help, not your lecture. If you've got money, give it. If not, we'll leave." Leo looked at her, the same arrogance that once ruled his house still flickered in her eyes. He turned to his father. "You taught me one thing, never to rely on anyone else. So I worked. I built something for myself, and I won't let you destroy it." His father lowered his head in shame. I understand. Leo sighed. You'll get food for tonight. A roof too. But not my forgiveness. Not yet. He called Mr. Harris, who silently brought 2 plates of warm soup and bread. Leo didn't speak again. He watched his father eat quietly, while his mind was torn between pity and anger. Later that night, as the cafe lights dimmed, Mr. Harris put a hand on his shoulder. You did the right thing, Leo, helping them without letting them break you again. That's strength. Leo nodded slowly, his eyes filled with pain. I don't want revenge anymore. I just want peace. But deep inside, he knew the scars would never fade completely. He had lost his family once. Now, they had lost everything. And that, perhaps, was life's cruel justice. Still, Leo decided one thing that night. He would rise higher than ever before, not for revenge, but to prove that kindness and perseverance always win in the end. He whispered softly into the night, I'll build the life I was denied. And that promise became the fire that would carry him into his final chapter, one where destiny would turn fully in his favor. The years that followed shaped Leo into a man of quiet strength and unwavering purpose. The small cafe that once paid his daily wages became the foundation of his empire. Mr. Harris, seeing Leo's sincerity and talent, made him the manager after just 2 years. And when age caught up with the old man, he handed the business keys to Leo, saying with a warm smile, You were once looking for a home, son. Now, this cafe, it's yours. Treat it like one. Leo couldn't hold back his tears. That cafe had been his refuge when the world turned its back on him. And now, it was his responsibility, his legacy. But Leo didn't stop there. With every cup of coffee served, every customer who left with a smile, he dreamed bigger. He worked late into the night, renovated the shop, expanded it, and even started a second branch in another part of town. Within 5 years, Leo's Brew Haven became one of the most loved cafes in the city, known not only for its taste, but for its story. People said, There's a man behind this cafe who built his empire from pain. Leo often stood by the window in the evenings, watching the golden light pour across the counter, remembering how far he had come. The boy who was once thrown out of his home now owned a business that provided work for others. Still, deep down, he carried a quiet ache, the wound left by his father's rejection. One rainy afternoon, as he was closing the accounts, a young boy entered the cafe drenched. Nervous and trembling slightly, sir. Someone outside wants to see you, the boy said. Leo frowned. Who is it? The boy hesitated. He says he's your father. Leo froze. The pen slipped from his hand. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then, in a calm voice, he replied, Tell him to come in. The door creaked open, and his father stepped inside. Time had not been kind to him. His hair was gray, his clothes torn, his once proud shoulders now bent. The arrogance that had defined him was gone. He looked fragile, humbled by life's blows. Leo. His voice cracked. I heard about your success. I just wanted to see you once. Leo looked at him quietly. You've seen me now. The old man's eyes glistened with tears. I was wrong, son. I ruined everything. I don't expect forgiveness. I just want you to know I'm proud of you. For a moment, Leo felt his chest tighten. The years of pain, struggle, and anger rushed through his veins. He had imagined this moment countless times the day his father would come to him, defeated and broken. He had thought it would feel like victory, but it didn't. It felt like grief. Like loss, he walked over, placed a cup of coffee in front of his father, and said softly, This one's on the house. His father's trembling hands wrapped around the cup. And he whispered, You've become everything I wasn't. Leo sighed. No, father. I became what I had to be. There was a long silence between them. Outside, the rain fell steadily against the window pane, a soft rhythm that filled the cafe. His father stood up slowly, with tears in his eyes. Thank you, son, for the kindness I never gave you. Leo nodded, and as his father walked away into the rain, he whispered to himself, Goodbye, Dad. That night, Leo sat alone in his office, staring at the small framed picture of Mr. Harris that hung on the wall. He smiled faintly. "You are the father I never had," he murmured, "and I hope you're proud too." In the following years, Leo's cafe became more than a business. It became a symbol of resilience. He started a foundation for young people who had been abandoned or disowned, giving them jobs and hope the same way he had once been given a chance. Every morning, he greeted his staff with the same words, "No one here is alone. We rise together." And though he had every reason to hold on to bitterness, Leo chose forgiveness not because his father deserved it, but because he deserved peace. The final time he visited his father's grave, he brought a single cup of coffee with him, his signature blend, and placed it by the tombstone. "Life gave us a bitter start," said softly, "but I found sweetness at the end. Maybe that's enough." The wind rustled the trees gently as if carrying his words to the heavens. Leo stood there for a while, looking at the sky. Before turning back toward his cafe, his home, his creation, his redemption, he smiled, not in pride, but in peace. The journey had been cruel, but it had made him unbreakable. And as he walked away, one truth echoed in his heart: you can't choose where you start, but you can always choose where you end.